So I think Jim had like an
Wait.
itinerary.
I just wanted us, I guess, to like introduce ourselves, and so because like we're all coming from different communities. I mean, a little bit of the same because most of us, or I mean, three of us are from D2, so but some of us specialized in PD2, some of us specialized in speedrunning or hybrid. um,
Mhm.
so and then you got Rob in D3 and a little bit of D2. Just getting second in season 2, no big deal.
Yeah, Rob and I had some
Well, I
good
had some
blasting
good
time.
teachers here.
Yeah.
Good times.
All right.
Well, why don't you introduce yourself, Jim?
All right. So I'm Gymnasium. I did D2 speedrunning for almost five and a half years now. I started 5.5 years ago. Took a little break and did some Minecraft speedrunning, but came back to D2 and then really got into speedrunning in D2R. Went full time streaming a year and a half ago. Thanks to you guys hanging out for some reason. Yeah. Before that, I was a handyman.
Awesome. Awesome. Lucky. How about you?
Yeah. So I'm lucky. I've had the pleasure of meeting everyone on this call through Diablo in one way or another, whether it's speedrunning or Rob, whatever you call our 99 grinds in Diablo 2. Sort of speedrunning and sort of just being a grinder. But yeah, I started originally playing Project Diablo 2, so Jim and talked about that. But I just kind of do everything. I work full time, so I work as a strategy manager for an investment bank, but really I just want to be a streamer at the end of the day. Like that's what it's all about. I want to play games. I want to play the games that I love, and it's always been Diablo. So I moonlight as a streamer. At least I pretend to be. So we have fun with it. Mostly been playing Rogue in Diablo 4. So that's kind of my bread and butter. And Jim and Vi and I have been, kind of doing some speedrunning for getting ready for season 1. That's kind of how I got into speedrunning in the first place. I was always, more of an end game grinder. I like to play the ladders, but you figure, well, how do I get there faster? And that's kind of where speedrunning came in for me. That was kind of the void I needed to fill. It's like, what Rob? What do you do? Early exploit often. That's what you got to do in this game. Sometimes. How do you get there? You gotta be fast. So the first people to get there, you get to take advantage of the billion crit barb whirlwinds and things like that. So it doesn't hurt to start off fast. So that's kind of how I got into all this.
Robin, I think you're probably the biggest streamer of all of us. So go ahead and introduce yourself.
I mean, yeah, the last weeks with Diablo 4 obviously have been pretty crazy. I've been having a great time. And yeah, I got to know all of you here, like also through Diablo 2. Originally, though, I started streaming in Diablo 3. And then when Diablo 2 got like resurrected with all the hype and all the new stuff, I really loved that game. Even before I started streaming, I played a lot of D2, like just single player with my cousin, with my friend, with my sister,
Nice.
and like it was amazing. And actually, I got into like, I mean, quote unquote speedrunning, like thanks to all of you guys, because we were like planning the 99 push in Diablo 2, and we did it very successfully together. Got multiple like rank ones. I played some Paladin, and some other people got many rank ones, like Teo, Jim, like a lot of people. And yeah, really a great time. And obviously now in D4, I mainly play Barbarian. It's my favorite class, but it had a pretty rough time, I feel, in the last few weeks.
Yeah. There's been a lot of changes in the the mechanics, internal mechanics of Diablo 4 recently, and there's more changes coming, right? So we kind of gotta adapt and change strategies as they come along.
Plenty of changes, and definitely like looking into playing other classes. I've played Necromancer, I played Druid, and I think, I mean, what we're going to discuss here mostly today is the leveling. And for the leveling, currently the rogue looks pretty strong, so that's definitely next on my list. And I'm looking forward to this discussion and talking about how we can do the 1 to 50 or even 1 to 100.
For sure.
Quickly.
For sure.
Yeah.
And just in case nobody knows who I am, which probably most people don't, Vitruth or Vtruth. I don't really care which one, but I am a full-time attorney. I do tax law and criminal defense, and I really like Diablo games. And just like Lucky, I got into speedrunning because of ladder resets, and I wanted to know how to do it faster. And I saw a couple people doing speed runs and like theory crafting how to do it. And this was like way back in like 2014, 2015. And I was like, well, let me look into this. And, I made my first attempt. I think my first try, it took me like 3 hours to get through the game. And, I did a couple runs after that and, kind of fell off the face of the earth. At one point, but I'm back with a vengeance with Diablo 4 right now, and looking forward to figuring out how to get to 100 as fast as possible. All right.
Sweet. Yeah. So I guess that was like kind of one of the things that I want us to like, cover is, I didn't know some of the stuff about you guys, which is cool. Like, and I'm sure a lot of people didn't. So,
Cool.
So the first, I guess, topic that I wanted to start on was speedruns in general, and kind of like what other games have done or have adopted, and I guess like the general meaning of speedrunning is like to beat the game as fast as possible. What does that mean to you? So, I guess. What is it to you to beat the game as fast as possible? Like, I guess that would be, different or maybe specific or
So I sort of touched on it,
Yeah.
at least what got me into speedrunning, the reasons why I wanted to do it. I think it has a lot to do with just ARPGs in general, and I think the life cycle of an ARPG and having all of those season resets, getting to start fresh, getting to start new. That's where the challenge is, in my opinion. And I always loved ladder resets, but I never really thought about speedrunning. But speedrunning is essentially it's a reset every time. In ARPGs, you play through the life cycle of an ARPG. You're at the end, you have all your gear, you're super strong, and then the game becomes almost trivial to you at that point. So it was a way for me to almost simulate a ladder reset without without the official wipe occurring. And then all of the practice from speedrunning you could apply to later seasons. I think every speedrun I did, I learned something, and you can apply it every time a season starts. So that was really what drew me in, I think, personally.
Yeah, for sure, man. I mean, like speedrunning definitely made me want to just figure out how to get the early game. It made the early game fun again, I think one of the main things that got me back into Diablo 2 was starting to play hardcore. And when I started playing hardcore, the game felt real again, as opposed to just like bashing your face against the wall until you beat a boss or something like that. And then speedrunning added like a whole nother challenge. And it just made the journey exciting, as opposed to just something that happens.
Yeah.
You actually consider what's going on in front of you as it happens.
Yeah, for me, it's just like what brings me the most joy in video games, the most fun is just like spend my time as efficient or as effective as I can. That's
Mm.
not only like from the fresh start, but also like in the end game of games, and obviously like to get there as fast as possible. For me, it really started with the D3 seasons, like where we always planned like a 4-man group like together with all the different setups just to sort of like min-max the time to hit the end game, to hit the max level, but then also to go from there and hit the highest greater rift it was in D3, like 150. And I really like to do that in Diablo 2 with all of you guys and learning from the best Diablo 2 speedrunners. And that really got me like more into this, and I could use a lot of the knowledge and also a lot of the concepts that were discovered, especially by some of the Excel documents that you guys has made. and adapt that in the early D4 races. And I mean, there was no official race, but this there was a hardcore and a softcore, like unofficial Diablo 4 race. And those strategies really helped out a lot there, and I think will really help out for season 1. And yeah, it's just not like wasting anyone's time as well. You know, when you play with people, I don't want to be the guy that is like AFK in the town for 10 minutes and everybody has to wait for somebody to just come back. And basically, like, I'm just sort of like wasting 3 people's time and I just lack, quote unquote. So I really like this, like, a efficient grind and respect each other's time. And yeah, that's basically what my speedrun journey is so far.
Yeah, so something that I noticed from when I was getting into D2 speedrunning was that, like, I was doing it for ladder resets as well, and that's how I got into solo speedrunning. But one thing that, like, I realized when I was playing with more casual players, I won't mention where they're from, but anyway, I'd just gotten a team together of, like, friends that I'd played D2 with, and was trying to get them to kind of, like, implement aspects of the speed run I saw the Germans do back in 2014, I think, or 2013, and so me and a friend, Unsullied, rest in peace, we got together a team of 8, and we organized everybody to have a role like the German team that had initially come up with it, and then, try to emulate that and do it better, but realized that wasn't going to happen with people that just didn't know the game as well. And also, I didn't know the game as well as I thought I did until I got into speedrunning D2. And when you start getting into speedrunning, like, you start to see, like, problems with your own gameplay, like where you thought you were good, and then if you do watch yourself back, which is a little bit cringe sometimes, but it's the best way to learn, in my opinion. And you start to see, like, your mistakes and where you can improve. And like Rob mentioned, like, spending too much time in town, like, town is lava, is, like, something I've heard a lot from the D3 guys, and it's like, that's so true. You're spending way too much time messing around with items or whatnot. I'm still doing that in D4, I feel like.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah, I think in D4 it's even worse right now. Like, there's so much clutter that you have to look at, and I mean, you can really make some nice, like, guidelines or something, like, to understand or to explain to people how they can, like, min-max and manage their inventory fast. Because I see, like, some of my community, man, people really, like, they do one Nightmare Dungeon run, they're like 3-4 minutes into the run, and then they're like 5 minutes in town trying to figure out the stuff because there's no loot filter. There's, like, so many yellows to look at.
You
who knows what's good yet?
You gotta know your top affixes for every item, every item slot. If you have basically all armor is all affixes, and then your weapon actually does matter what the item power is and the actual damage per second. But armor, rings, all of that stuff, especially when you're trying to level up as quickly as possible. Like, if you don't have an affix on your gear and it isn't like over 100 armor bonus, toss it. You know, we don't need to consider, like, a 5% increase in survivability for, like, 5 minutes when you could be killing. You know, always be killing. ABK.
Yeah, so that was actually, like, a perfect segue into the D4 speedrunning segment.
Perfect.
So, yeah. So in D4, what's going to be interesting, I guess, is, like, min-maxing the, XP that you get for the base level or the base XP of the mob. So, like, when you're in, the capstone dungeon, those mobs are always level 50. And so if doesn't matter what level you are, you're getting the base XP. And then if you're, 3 levels or lower, then you're getting 25% more. And that XP is really good, but if you're lower level and you're not killing it as efficiently, then you're not getting as good of XP as you could be as killing mobs that are closer to your level faster. So, yeah, when we were looking at that, it's like, okay, we can kill mobs that are higher level than us, but we don't want to be going too far beyond 3 levels. Otherwise, you start really falling off on damage output versus, well, also and survivability, because like if you're dead, you're doing no damage. So, but yeah, I mean, the damage output versus like the kill speed and um and how long it's taking. So, yeah, I think we've kind of come up with a pretty good balance or a good route for balancing that out. And I don't know if we want to get into that routing just yet, maybe, but
Wait, I have a question before that.
yeah, go ahead.
So Rob is the returning champ as the first 100
Yeah.
in Diablo 4. So, and Rob, I know you've been kind of theory crafting a little bit on your season 1 start before Jim and Vitruth get into too much of the nitty gritty and the details on what their route is. I'm kind of curious what you're thinking, at this point. How would you change your strategy from season 0 or launch to season 1? What are your initial thoughts, at least? I'm just curious.
Yeah, I mean, there's really been a lot of changes with all the balance patches and basically updates that Blizzard pushed out to the various systems. So obviously, like a major difference between season 1 and the launch is like first you have the campaign skip. So this one like basically like makes the entire strategy that we had for the launch of the game, where we won the race, like completely like obsolete, because you don't even have to do the campaign. So you can like you have your mount from the start, you instantly start in Kiowa shot, you have the waypoints of the main cities unlocked, so you're not forced to do the fractured peaks, that you can do anything in the open world. So I don't really know, like I mean I think that's where you guys come in, like what dungeons are the most effective to run early on, or what quests to do, like side quests or something. And then obviously we have the season theme, the season of the Malignant. In the footage that Blizzard has shown, I think there was very low level characters already that were sort of like interacting with the season mechanics. So and these hearts look very strong. And if you can use these like from early levels, this might increase the speed exponentially. Then third, we have the battle pass. There's going to be certain rewards in the battle pass, and one of those rewards is a 4% XP bonus. I think it stacks up to 4 times. So you can probably have like or 3%. I don't know. You can have like 12% XP bonus or something in the end. And then obviously we have to see if this one is additive or multiplicative with like the Torment 3 and Torment 4 bonus multipliers. But that could be a really huge impact as well. And then, I mean, on top of that, obviously the entire like class balance changed. There's been lots of nerfs, lots of buffs to all the different classes.
A lot
Especially,
of that,
yeah, especially like we have the renown system as well. So we're already going to start. It's probably the 5th point, already with all the renown unlocked. So we have at least I think 5 skill points already, and you have the second skill points half done. Like you have like 2.5 renowns on all the regions. So you're going to have a tremendous power boost. On top of that, you have more stats from the Altars of Lilith. That's also changing the entire early game. Like before, Barbarian and Druid, I think they're still weaker than the other classes, but at least the start is very quickly for all the classes. And I think this is going to be a very fast race. And then the final and 6th change is probably the Nightmare Dungeon XP buff. I mean, we got like about double the XP now from Nightmare Dungeons. And I mean, that's just gonna like, save another 10 hours at the end. So I'm thinking like early estimates. I was thinking like, maybe in a perfect run, you can do 20 hours to level 100. But more realistically, I think with like town time and, everything that's going on, I think like about 24 hours, sub 24 hours would be a very nice time to reach. And 20 hours would be the theoretical possible, at least from my early calculations.
Are these calculations taking into effect that you're going to be needing to like be upgrading your gear to be able to output this kind of damage?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a very optimized, like theoretical approach. I think like the 24, 25 hour mark is the realistic mark. Like 20 hours is like maybe theoretical if you get like super lucky. Obviously, like there's a lot of RNG, right? Let's say you're starting a druid. I mean, if you get Tempest Roar, you're gonna fly to 100 no matter what. But like you can't in a speed run, like you can't rely on getting it. It's like similar to in D2, man. Sometimes you get that M rune, I think, to get your spirit in normal, and lots of times you don't get it. And I think like your like consistent strategy is like not to rely on the spirit rune word in D2. But yeah, obviously in D4, maybe we'll figure something like that out as well, where some of the loot could be like like a very high chance of obtaining it, or some strategies like upgrading your gems for the M rune and stuff. I'm very excited for this.
I don't think we can really target farm like the uniques that are necessary for some of these classes to really take off. But there are, I think, some strategies in order to obtain some equipment that will be periodic upgrades throughout.
Yeah, and again, I have not looked into it a lot because I was like mainly testing endgame these past weeks. Again, I looked a lot into the leveling stuff, but this was the old meta, the old strategy for launch, and like all the points that I just made, like it's just gonna be a completely different meta. And yeah, I think you guys did some very in-depth testing already. Obviously, like it will always be improved even further by the community and by speedrunning community. So it's just really exciting to hear what you guys figured out so far and
Well,
adapt strategies.
Yeah, so we've done we've only done I think one season start test, but we've done like multiple speed runs. And the difference I guess between the two is like in speedrunning, at least on speedrun.com, the way they have it is you can use all 10 skill points at the start, and at the start of the season it looks like you're only be starting with 5 because of the way that, you know, having the altars of Lilith and exploration is going to be done. But you can eventually get those 10 skill points and get them pretty early on. But yeah, so starting with 10 skill points is a pretty massive thing. Then for speedrunning, you can't use the codex until you're level 25, whereas you could finish a dungeon for a specific class in this season, get their aspect early on before 25, and then they can just start blasting. And you can unlock, you know, multiple dungeons for for your various classes in your team. And so it's been really hard to kind of like figure out a good route for that, as well as like what's the best comp for that, and what will be the best comp for like the later part of the game, because the early part of the game, like running what we ran might not be better in the later part of the game. It depends, I guess. But yeah, it's a lot of like just, I guess, going over and over again, like what should we be doing for speedruns versus what we should be doing for season starts. And I wish, like, well, it would be hard for like the speedrun.com to enforce season start mechanics for speedruns, because they would have to just sit there and watch to make sure you never use more than 5 skill points until you've done so much renown that you would have unlocked the next skill point. And so it's too
I can
it's
give
too
some
hard
insight
for
there
that, for
to, you know,
yeah, speedrunner.
so
Yeah,
I
Lucky's a mod, so let's hear it.
I
we got a speedrun mod right here.
the site, and they're I mean, it comes down at the end of the day to like Blizzard doesn't have the ability for you to sort of start fresh in Diablo 4, right? So you can't really simulate, unless you are policing yourself, what a fresh start would look like, because you have Altars of Lilith, you have resources that are all already stacked in your inventory. There's really no like solo self-found mode. I think that would be really cool in the future if Diablo 4, eventually had something like that for people who just want to maybe the extra challenge. Until then, you could always police yourself. But in terms of like the site, like it was gonna be pretty much impossible to enforce any kind of rules like that. So we just said, why not let people have fun with it? Get your 10 skills at level 1, see how fast you can blast through the game. That's what we're talking about, right? Speed. So do it as fast as you can. I think there's merit to both strategies for playing through the game, and I'm just kind of curious to see what people would do with it. So that's sort of how we came across that. But I think for the season start that we're talking, I think that's going to be what's most on everyone's mind, rather than what like an official speedrun looks like. I think official speedruns will change over time too, as we see different changes, because there's like seasonal bounties and stuff. So now all of our seasonal characters are going to have these bonuses that are going to have, you're going to get more XP everything you kill, and so there's just going to be this imbalance between now seasonal characters and Eternal Realm. So I think the speedrun scene will change a million times over the course of the lifetime of Diablo 4, but we can talk about season 1 and the things that are going to change, because we're not even able to test everything, for season 1 ahead of time. There's going to be, our route. We don't have any plans for all of those malignant bosses that are coming by. I mean, I'm just assuming if they come by, we're going to try to deal with any of them that we encounter and check the gems that drop and try to apply them into our builds. But we don't even know what gems to look for. We've seen 2.5 maybe. I saw like a little tiny screenshot of one frame of one of the other malignant hearts in the preview. So this is all stuff that is going to be done on the fly. So whichever teams or whichever players are best on thinking on the fly are really going to be the ones that excel in a season start. But having that practice beforehand kind of sets you up well for that.
Yeah,
We're gonna get
you definitely gotta have to adapt a lot to changing circumstances. Like there might be even like hot fixes like while the race is going on, like they did on the launch. Like for example, the gore bracers. Like I think we were like level 80, and then in the middle of the run, like the gore bracer got fixed on launch. And I'm thinking, especially if we don't have any like sort of testing environment before the season starts, we're just gonna do the testing whenever the season launches. And yeah, teams will have to adapt, because I'm very sure there's gonna be. I think the developer said it himself during the live stream that they expect things to be broken, and yeah, that's definitely going to happen. And like there might be adjustments if necessary. So yeah, you got to think on the fly. You got to be able to adapt, but obviously like having some practice done and having like a general strategy of where to be at which time is going to be super important. And yeah, the categories that you mentioned, like which category or how have you guys done the practice now? Because definitely the most important or most popular thing, and what people will be very interested in, is exactly like the stats that you have in the season start and exactly that category. So 5 skill points instead of 10, like that would definitely be the main practice point right now for people.
That's
Like,
actually
maybe it's not qualified as an official speedrun, but that's definitely what like 90+% of the people will care the most about.
So we have kind of did like a test flight of just 5 skill points, and as we earned the rep, we added more skill points as we renown whatever. But at season launch, it could be very different, because as it is right now. Renown, you get experience. So if we actually do have 2 ranks of renown in every single town, we start at level 7.
Yeah, because you start
not level 1.
Yeah.
That's 35,000 experience that you start off with. So that throws a whole wrench into any testing that you could possibly do and timing prior to doing anything on a run. So it could be pretty wild. That is if we do have 2 levels of renown in every single in like every area. We don't know for certain how it's going to play out, if there's going to be any adjustments, if the devs are going to adjust the experience bonus. But the first rank is 2,000. The second rank is 5,000. That adds up to 35k experience for everyone right off the bat by clicking claim on your map, right?
So the interesting part also about the renown, and I don't know if you guys have tested that, you also get quite some gold, right? Have you guys thought? I mean, I know we do this a lot in D2 as well. Like you buy items from the vendor, so you get like, I think it's like, I don't know, like 30k gold for each renown region. Like, do you guys know if there's any like, let's say breakpoints or something, like when you like, I don't know, let's say you're level 10 and that's when you really want to check the vendors, like to get like a GG weapon or something? Like, do you have like any info on that or any testing there? Because that could also be like very interesting, I feel. Get like a big power boost.
We don't have the breakpoints figured out for the vendors yet, as far as I have seen. Maybe Reddit. Yeah, maybe Reddit is going to figure that out soon, but I mean, I think we've been more focused on how to get experience as quickly as possible. But I'm sure there is some sort of breakpoint that we could eventually figure out. There's also, you know, vendors shops don't refresh like all the time.
Not like D2.
They're
Yeah, you
also
have
kind of
you have to sit and
expensive
wait.
early on.
Yeah.
They're sort of outrageously expensive.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know, a lot of the time we're playing with gold pools that already are in the millions, and we're not tracking every piece of gold that we pick up in the speed runs. But a lot of that stuff is, I think, the minimum 10K for like a blue early on, and unless you're selling, which I don't really think it's beneficial to sell, or like I like salvaging early on personally. So you find so many drops just as we're playing. Like the strategy revolves a lot around grouping up huge mobs, doing events, and you know, I don't want to talk too much about it because these guys know it better than me. But items don't really seem to be an issue. But it's a cool idea to think of, you know, with the shop refreshing, but and the breakpoints there. But more often than not, it almost seems like it's looking for a needle in the haystack sometimes with those vendors, especially early and given the cost. Yeah.
I just remember I noticed a lot, like on the first level playthrough on launch, that whenever you have a good weapon, like for your level, it's a really big impact. Because I remember, like, I did one blob playthrough. I think it was during the open beta or something, where I just didn't get like a 200 mace. Like I just didn't get it, and I was using like Hoda or something, and it felt so bad, like playing with my level 1 mace on level like 12 or something. So I think there could be something like that, but I definitely agree with the general sentiment, and that's what I've been doing as well. Like you basically salvage basically everything before, I mean, besides the items that you play, but you don't sell, you salvage, because you get the same materials that you need in the end game. But if you sell, you only get a fraction of the gold that you would get if you would sell an item in end game. So I think basically, like, for me at least right now, the best strategy is like basically salvage everything until you are in T4, and then you start selling, because you're just gonna get way more value of the items and the gold in there.
Yeah, you definitely need the materials early for sure. Like you're just never going to be able to upgrade anything if you don't have the materials.
Applying aspects, yeah, because I think early on, like the lowest level or the lowest amount of veiled crystal you need is 5, I believe.
I think so.
I think that's where maybe it's 4 if you're like level 1, but we never get an aspect at level 1. I haven't looked at it anyway, because you have to get a rare item, and anyway. So yeah. Okay, so the other thing is the hardcore versus softcore discussion of these routing situations. Now, we've only been routing for softcore because we've been pushing as fast as possible. I think
Speak
we're all
for
going
yourself,
softcore.
Jim.
But like, I guess that's the debate is like, why aren't you doing this on hardcore? I see that a lot, or asking like, are you going to do a hardcore speedrun? And it's like, well, we would have to come up with a completely, not completely different, but we'd have to change a few things because of how risky some of the situations we put ourselves in on this softcore speedrun. And I think the safety issue for hardcore, I'm not sure. Like, I'm not sure how often you get the scrolls of escape and the elixirs and all of that.
Well, the elixirs you make, scrolls of escape, are a random drop, and I've done like hardcore walks, I guess, not really runs, but walks. I've gotten to 46 and never received a scroll of escape. Where other times I got it almost as soon as I turned 20, right? So they start dropping at 20, and it is pretty random. So it's hardcore is its own animal for sure.
Yeah. I don't think, I mean, Lucky or Rob, y'all have much input on the hardcore
Over
or
level
softcore?
and
Yeah.
pure elixirs. It's not really hardcore. It's like medium core. I'm not convinced.
Play it safe, man.
Yeah.
This
Over
is
level and you'll be fine. Like it's really, you're not gonna get caught off guard if you're staying over leveled. In the softcore speed runs, we push the limits, right? We're trying to get into tier 3 as soon as possible. So you're gonna see us in Cathedral Light at level 35. It's just, I don't recommend doing that if you're on hardcore. You know, play it safe. level
That
up.
sounds amazing, dude. This is how I love to play the game as well, man. High
Yeah,
risk, high
this is-
reward, but like, I
exactly.
mean, like if you die, then just get back up and go again. Like,
That's
you
it.
know,
Push the boundaries on softcore.
that's
Hardcore, you
fantastic,
play it
yeah.
safe. That's the nature of the game.
I'm always like of the nature, or my motto is always, man, go full DPS, and then you figure out how to survive later. Just dodge. Don't get hit forehead.
Yeah, just dodge.
Yeah, just dodge, man.
Just don't get hit. Easy. Kill him in one
But
hit.
yeah, I mean that's like it just feels way more fun for me to play like that, you know, like having like high damage and like you really need to be careful where you're standing in. I think that's just such a more interesting playstyle than just standing in the back, like constantly worried if like one arrow is gonna hit you. Like, man, I don't care. I go into the fray, I jump into the fray or leap into the fray on my path, and then I start killing stuff with like high DPS. And well, I worry about the surviving later, you know.
Yeah.
That's how I like to play the game. That's what feels good to me. So I don't like this, like, you know, very defensive playstyle. Obviously, this could be a lot of strategizing and everything as well, like in the Nightmare Dungeon 100s or something. But I really like, you know, the grind, the blast, like when you have a fast-paced playstyle, like with high DPS, high utility. And, well, you have to give up some defensive to obtain that. And I much prefer that.
Yeah. I think those are some good points. Obviously, like, because we're pushing the limits, we're going to be dying. And in hardcore, you don't take those risks, is how I see it. There's no real risk taking you do on hardcore, and that's why I don't find it as fun or as enjoyable. For speedrunning, you would still take those risks, I think, and would just, like, because it's a speedrun, you're done with the character after you're done with the speedrun anyway. So, but for like season start and pushing all the way to 100, you're not really speedrunning there. You're, you know, taking your time, you know, getting through the game.
I don't know how much
So-
taking of time you really need to do. You just level slightly higher than 35, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I was kind of like a lore Andy on season 0 launch, right? And I was like taking my time watching every single cutscene and everything like that, you know, really enjoying myself. But you know, after I was done with the storyline, I was just like, well, let's just push. And I walked into the capstone like mid 40s for tier 3. Walked through tier 3 was fine. Pushed tier 4 at around 65. You know, felt fine. And you know, I walked into a dungeon at 68 and got telestomped because I didn't have a death evasion potion going because I didn't sit around and farm them out. And that's like, after that, you know, I was just playing angry on hardcore until I finally made it to 100. You know, it's not, it's as slow as you want to make it. I think you can play pretty aggressive on hardcore still. It doesn't, hardcore doesn't mean, you know, play safe always. It means like, you know, calculated risks.
I mean, especially if you want to win the race, like you definitely gotta, like on hardcore, you definitely gotta be taking some risks. And I mean, there might be like the Uber Lilith race as well, and I mean that's full of risks in there.
Yeah,
and,
for sure.
There's gonna be some guy that just gets like that is either a giga chat or just gets lucky and well beats her like very early on, I think. And it's gonna be fun to see because we're gonna see many corpses on the way.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah.
Curious what race they have in store for us.
Yeah, exactly.
They'll be.
I mean, they do want to incentivize people playing their new season, so I feel like they are going to probably do something like maybe like they did for the Lilith statue, but in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that would be cool. I mean, like I guess we have kind of official confirmation that we're gonna like see leaderboards like earliest next year. That's a bit of a bummer, but I mean,
Yeah.
they're gonna do it properly, I guess, and maybe they're gonna have like what you mentioned here, some like more like not really like in game, but like maybe a statue or some rewards, like you know, for the first people to just incentivize, you know, people to play the game, to have some fun, to compete a bit, and yeah, I loved that. Like that was an amazing thing with the hardcore strategy, and then even all the community like coming together and creating like an unofficial race or leaderboard. I mean, that's great to see.
Yeah, what Blizzard lacks in the community picks up.
Yeah,
So
that'll be something.
yeah, that's kind of how like trading's gone in D4 as well as like, you know, the leaderboard. And anyway,
I have not traded.
yeah, I haven't traded.
I think the only trading I've done is every once in a while a speedrunner wants to try out hardcore, and I'll just hand them a bunch of gold or something like that. Or every once in a while we drop things to each other during the speedrun. And outside of that, I haven't been able to trade with anyone.
I mean, I'm sure there's, Discords and there's probably websites I'm not going to mention, but yeah, like there's, or just even Twitch streams probably.
Yeah,
But,
you just gotta develop some sort of community. I think outside of the game, which I hope that the devs are working on a way to make it something that we can actually do within the game, like coordinate within the game, except like outside of that trade channel that is sharded. Only like 16 people are ever on your individual trade channel. I hope that they expand it.
So, are there any MMOs that don't have like a auction house or something similar? Because this is an MMO ARPG. So
That's a good question.
maybe chat knows out there, but if you have an MMO ARPG, I feel like for trading you should be having an auction house as well, with like search functions to be able to look up, okay, this amulet, does it have cooldown reduction, movement speed, etc., right? And so you should be able to have these search functions for the item that you're looking for on the auction house. And I mean,
Man, 100%, man. I felt that so crazy, making multiple characters and looking for items on these characters that are not my main and
Yeah.
trying to trade them. It's been a nightmare for the most part. But I mean, here we can already see the community is picking it up. Like they have like an awesome Discord server, like where you can. I mean, they make the best out of it at least. Like there's some sort of filter system. Obviously, like it could be way better done like in the game directly because you don't have to go to like a third party like Discord. But yeah, I feel like they could do so much more. I felt we went a couple of steps back, like from D3. Like obviously, the real money auction house is a step way too far. But just having like a normal auction house, like similar to like how PoE does it, for example,
Agreed.
or something, like where you can actually trade and like use your in-game character without having to like make a screenshot, upload it somewhere, and then post the screenshot, and like not having a filter system, and it's just horrible.
Yeah.
It's a nightmare, and I get why many people don't do this, but for me it's also like a big part of the game, like just the social aspect of the trading. Like when you trade, like you always like get to know new people, like you're talking with people or you're interacting with people that you normally wouldn't. And it's just like a fun mini game in the game as well, like just like trading and economy and min maxing there. It's a lot about efficiency as well. And you can also like kind of like build the item that you need like in segments. Let's say you want to like get a new weapon, you can like farm the gold in pieces without relying on the RNG of just getting like an 800 plus item power like a mace or something. Like you can just know that, man, maybe I can do this. I can farm about 10 million gold per hour, and then after 5 hours, I can get the weapon that I want or that I need for my build. And I feel like it's a really important part. But yeah, there could be so much stuff that could be improved in this system.
Right. That would definitely make the late game grind of just dungeon farming, feel more rewarding because you're actually getting gold for what you're doing. Without like the actual items being put up somewhere, or having the proper structure in place in order to make that trade, it kind of feels like kind of pointless just farming forever.
Yeah, I agree. I guess the next thing would be like going back to the speedrunning aspect, because we kind of got off of the speedrun into more general D4. But when we come back to like how you want to get into the late game quickly versus how fast you want to be in the late game, the team compositions, what is going to be the best 4-man for like, okay, you might have a guy that really wants to play a barbarian, for example, and he's dead set on playing barb.
What's the meta going to be? I'm always of the sentiment, man, if you want to play barb, okay, I mean, you're fine. Start with a rogue. Step 1, if you want to play barb, start with a rogue, blast to max level, and then make a barb and get boosted. That sounds pretty okay to me, but yeah, we'll see. Not everybody likes that. I get that.
Yeah, but a barb does also have a lot of support aspect with his shouts. So how beneficial is that versus like having a Sork with the fireball enchant, or I don't know, like the Necro can group a bunch of monsters together with corpse tendrils. The Rogue obviously has the most damage early and probably
And late.
Yeah. Well, I mean, especially through the leveling stage, the Druid is very, very underpowered in the early game, but does start to come online as it gets later and later, and maybe keeps up or passes the Rogue. It depends on, like, I guess your RNG of the items you get. So, uh, I guess what team comps do you guys think will be the best for pushing 100 as fast as possible? Like, what 4-man? Maybe specifically, or even just like kind of a you need to have these two and then whatever. Do you have an idea of what you would think that would be, Rob?
Well, yeah, without like I haven't tested it myself, so I was just theory crafting and speculating. So take this all with a grain of salt. I think the rogue is by far like I don't know. I mean, like there's definitely going to be a rogue. Like the rogue is by far the fastest class from what I've seen, and the rogue also has some crazy advantage. It has a very strong build, which is Twisting Blades, and I think there's even other strong builds like Flurry, but I think Twisting Blades is still the king. And you also have the benefit that you get the biggest aspect that you need for the build, the spinny thing that it spins around you in the Codex of Power pretty early on. So you have insane movement speed, you have very high damage, you already have like a kind of function in build. Obviously, you can always improve, but it's just like so powerful in there. And then I think a second character could well be a sorcerer. Like sorcerer, I think falls off quite a bit in mid to like from like level 50 to like level 100. It's not that strong, but man, that enchantment slot, like you mentioned before, I remember how it carried us. Like we had like one Sork in our launch group as well. Big shout out. And like this, especially because I was on Barb early on, and Barb leveling was very meh. Was not that great, and that Sork and Fireborn enchantment like carried us through the dungeons like crazy. And so I think Rogue and Sorcerer are pretty much guaranteed, at least from my side. And then like the next two, you really have to see like, are you gonna do like double class or something? I think the Necromancer has some pretty cool stuff because throughout the playstyle, I have not leveled with Bone Spear, but I've only heard that Bone Spear does very consistent damage throughout the route. Obviously, you have the Essence problem early on, but maybe if you find like the Umbral or something, it could be improved even if you don't have this like flash aspect ring that you need there. And it's just one of the highest or the hardest hitting damage in the game, especially if some other class, or you can group them with the tendrils as well and then just shoot bone spears. It's just so powerful. And it also has an aspect that makes everything vulnerable all the time. So I think
Corpse Tendrils itself just makes
Corpse Tendrils has an upgrade where it makes everything vulnerable for quite some time. And obviously vulnerable is a very strong mechanic.
It's a 3-second
separate multiplier.
It's a 3-second vulnerable and a 3-second stun.
Yeah,
ridiculous.
And pulls everything in.
That's fine. And in AoE, so like that's insane. So maybe third pick, I would like go with the Necro. And on the fourth man, I feel it's very open. Like maybe you're gonna take like second rogue or something. I don't know. Like you can do some split farming craziness, I guess. Or maybe a Barb for the shouts. But I mean, Barb shouts has been nerfed so much that I'm not even sure about that. And then the Druid, it might be very weak, but it gives a lot of buffs. But I think Druid mainly gives defensive buffs. And like you guys said early on, like we're probably gonna like focus more on DPS, on speed, on grouping, on AoE clear. But then again, I think the Druid, again, like I said earlier, like if you get really lucky and then you get like hit like a jackpot and get like a Tempest Roar or some of the like big items for Grizzly Rage or something, man, you can carry like the group will carry you early on. The Rogues will carry 1 to 50 with the Sork as well. And then the Druid can carry 50 to 100, like auto-aim tornadoes or like some other of the, like even the threat build that I've been playing recently, and that one hits insanely hard. So I think there's a lot of possibilities. But yeah, just like to summarize, I think a Rogue, Sork are in, and then maybe a Necro, maybe a Druid, maybe a Barb, or maybe double Rogue. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Yeah, let's hear of your truth. You probably got the most.
I got a lot of opinions. I agree with Rob in a lot of places here. Sork, I think, will straight up carry almost any team early levels. As soon as they get that level 15 fireball enhancement, when they add that in, it's just nuts. Like, you could just clear a dungeon so quickly. And with our routing, Strongholds is really kind of what we do. And, she just helps the entire team. Even if you're split farming, if you're all together, if you can group everyone up, then, the Sork really, really shines. I'm a big fan of rogues early and late. I think that the Sork does fall off, but she's always good at farming. She may not be good at pushing the boss, other than applying CC. This, as it is right now, the whole meta could be flipped by the July 18th patch, but right now Sork struggles against like big bosses, but she does provide a lot of stagger for the boss. But Rogue does the stagger, Rogue does the damage for single target, Rogue does the damage for group targets. The only thing that Rogue is going to struggle with is they don't have enough skill slots for all of their high-powered abilities. They may not be able to group things as well as other people, but they have abilities for that too. They are the Swiss Army knife of Diablo 4 right now, and they can really, a good rogue player can carry a team.
That's a pretty good problem to have, man. There's too many good skills.
Too many good skills, really.
Do it all.
Like, oh,
So we have a rogue main here. Lucky.
Yeah. So I don't think I'll comment on my comp for a 4-person team. You guys have covered that as well, but I was gonna take it in a different direction because I think a lot of people are probably solo players as well watching, and speed runs apply to solo players just as much as they apply to group players. We play in groups because I think groups have a slight edge, given the mechanics of Diablo 4. So the blasters are gonna want to group up, but there's gonna be plenty of solo players that are right with those groups, like in terms of progression. The really good players. I was gonna ask what you guys think, who the most balanced class is if you were gonna do the speed run as a solo player, but it sounds like Rogue is the unanimous vote. But does anyone have any thoughts or ideas in terms of the more balanced solo player that would?
Are you talking about really 1 to 50? Are you talking about capstone? Or are you talking about 100?
The game. Yeah.
All right.
Game.
So
get to World Tier 4. Who's getting Elias down first?
Elias down first. I think is still Rogue. I don't think Sork can push Elias as quickly and easily as Rogue. A lot of other classes are going to struggle with dodging a lot of his mechanics, wherein Rogue can just leapfrog a lot of Elias's mechanics. Pushing the actual dungeon itself isn't that difficult if you know the mechanics of the boss monsters there. You just the animus carriers, they're the giant maulers that slam you. They do a charge and then a breath attack, and they'll one shot you. But if you just move to one side, then you're in the clear, right? With Elias's actual fight, he throws the fireballs out. If you're any other class but the Rogue and Sork, you basically have to run pretty far away. That way you can kind of weave in between the fireballs if you're pushing early, or you have to wait and farm up gear to actually like tank some of his attacks. It's really hard to bob and weave in between every little thing. I've tried to do it with super low gear and no movement speed on the Necro a couple times, and it's just, you can't do it. You need movement speed, or you need to be able to tank something.
Yeah, so the Necro does put out probably similar damage as the Rogue, but without the mobility. And when it comes to, pushing on softcore, we're dodging a lot of attacks with our mobility. So if you get like multi charges on your boots for your evade and movement speed on amulet and boots, then the Necro has like a better shot at like pushing that earlier, with good mechanics. But yeah, I mean, watching you do that was pretty brutal.
It's not fun. It's not fun.
Yeah, and
So, go ahead.
oh yeah, and then so for solo pushing, yeah, the rogue, sure, but like after that, I would say Sork will get to the first capstone, but I think Necro might be right behind her and pass her on the world tier 4 capstone.
I agree. I think Necro will pass Sork around that time.
Yeah, because the speed of the clear speed of Necro will just overtake Sork at that point. And then and that's just because her aspects out of the codex are not as powerful, pretty much. The Necro can target farm a few dungeons and be super powerful, whereas the Sork, even with all of her aspects, is just lacking, I feel, from the codex aspects. She really needs some of the ones that are not there, just like the Druid with like Pulverized Shockwave or Shred, but that's way later.
I think Druid really takes off when they're in tier 4.
Yeah, to me, all that matters the most is like who's going to get to 100 first. And if we're talking solo player, I mean, 99% sure it's going to be a rogue that's going to do it first. I mean, obviously, like assuming the current patch, like everything might change here,
Right.
with the 18th patch. But I think rogue is just so far ahead. Like it's really good in leveling. It's really good in mid game, and it's fucking crazy in end game, especially with the poison twisting blades, stealing infinite damage right now. I don't think any class can beat it, and it's probably also going to be the easiest Uber Lilith kill, like for the world first Uber Lilith as a solo player. Obviously, in a group you'll do it faster, but the only class I could see, if you want a Gamba and if you get lucky, it could be a Druid, I think, because even if the Druid is like, let's say, an hour later on leveling or something, I don't know if you have any numbers, but I probably assume the Druid is going to be an hour behind the Rogue to level 50. But man, if the Druid gets lucky and then gets Tempest Roar or any of those like crazy items, like it's gonna out-farm the Rogue in the Nightmare Dungeon section, like 50 to 100. It's just gonna farm like at 30% more efficiency than the Rogue, I think, if you get really lucky on the Druid. And there might be some players that just get lucky. I mean, if there's 1,000 players, like there might be 2 that find Tempest Roar on level 60. Like for example, it happened to me. I made a Druid and 1 hour later I had Tempest Roar. You can get lucky sometimes, and then if the Druid has that and 1 or 2 lucky aspects, the Tornado is just gonna blast. Like nobody even has a chance. It's max movement speed, always unstoppable, auto aims, infinite resource, and crazy damage. Like no class has a chance if you get lucky. But if you want consistency, I think Rogue is your pick if you want to try to make a first solo player.
Yeah, so for first Uber Lilith, I guess to give you like my stats, the Druid capstone speedrun I did took me 4 hours and 45 minutes. The Rogue speedrun,
like 4 hours and 45 minutes. Is that level 50 or is that the capstone dungeon and your T3 ready, or like just
Capstone T3?
Just unlocking T3. So I'm level 36, 37.
But do you think you could farm it at that point? Because I think that's like the most important. Like if you unlock it, okay, that's fine for a speedrun. But like, are you actually able to like kill monsters on T3 at that point?
Yeah, you can.
Okay. That's a great thing.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's insane. And what level would you be, your character?
35 to 37, somewhere in.
And they are like 53, right?
Yep.
The monsters.
Yep.
Holy shit.
You guys want to talk about the route to get there? Have we gone?
We
into some
haven't
of the
gone
details
over
there?
yet.
I'm
Do you
sure
want-
Rob would like to?
Do you want to
I
hear
was
it?
gonna say my Rogue unlock time was 4:07, 4 hours and 7 minutes, but it can
That's
easily
crazy.
be sub 4.
My solo Sork was 344.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, Rogue can be closer to that, I think. So Rogue and Sork are going to be an hour faster than the Druid, and that's just the first capstone, and it's going to keep going to the next capstone as well. So you're going to be probably 2 hours behind on solo runs versus other solo players.
Right.
Getting to World Tier 4.
And I mean, as soon as you're in tier 3, your experience skyrockets because you're getting that 100 XP bonus compared to 20%. And I'm sure you have already done the calculations, Rob. Elixirs are additive.
Yeah, they are. And
5%,
like, who knows
yeah.
what the battle pass will
Yeah,
do.
who
I would
knows with the
assume it's
battle
additive
pass? But
as well.
as soon as you get to 40, you can start unlocking those. So, I mean, even if it's additive, we're going to be sitting around about 117% if you have an elixir going at all times and you stack all your smoldering ashes immediately. You're going to be able to blast pretty quick compared to somebody that's sitting in tier 2 trying to farm up in order to take on the capstone.
Yeah, you get double the XP they're getting.
More.
Yeah,
There's more
that's
mobs.
exactly what we tried on launch as well. Like, just get to tier 3 as fast as possible, because you also get sacred items, of course. And I think, do you guys know what was the level again to wear a sacred item? Because that's also a really important breakpoint, right? When you get your sacred
45
weapon.
is the lowest you can get a sacred item on.
Okay, so yeah, you're pretty close then already.
And then
to
60
get
is
that.
ancestral. Is the lowest.
Yeah, at these breakpoints, like, you're gonna be flying through those content. It's
Yeah,
gonna
so
be
you need to
insane.
find a weapon that has the lowest level requirement, and it needs to drop early. Like, yeah.
Yeah, and again, it's there's definitely a big RNG part. I mean, if you get, like, you can get an 800 power weapon, like, when you're like just in T4 at level 50.
Good luck. Good luck, Rob.
I mean, you're gonna be flying then, of course.
Yeah, level 60, 800 item power, doing as much damage as you do at 100. Well, without the
Exactly.
Paragon, I guess. But.
And then the monsters are still level 73, so man, you're gonna be crushing. You're gonna be one-shotting everything. Just get lucky.
Yeah.
But yeah, obviously, like, getting there early, like you guys said, I mean, you have a way higher chance because you spend more amount of time in that high difficulty, so you have a higher chance of getting these crazy weapons and this crazy power buff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So their group play, I guess, I'll give you times for the 2 solo runs that I did. Our group play, we did, I mean, the first one we did was like 3.5 hours. The second,
It's still so fast though. Holy
yeah,
shit.
the second one we did was just under 3 hours. And I was like, wow, that's awesome. And then we did another run just yesterday, and we did it in 2 hours and 29 minutes. So we are under 2.5 hours in World Tier 3. Level 35.
We were
36.
30.
My
We were
estimation, I
36,
was like 4
37ish.
Okay, yeah.
We were almost 37.
That's
So
insane.
yeah, we got to level 30 or 35 in under 2 hours, was it? Yeah, something like that.
Do you want me to pull up
So-
the splits?
That's crazy, man.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's how much faster the group play is comparatively to other classes. Is we're already over an hour faster than like the fastest class.
Hell yeah.
That's solos
And
for the first
And it's
capstone.
only like 2 hours faster than Druid and Barbs or something, right? Or do you have
Yeah.
any numbers for like solo Druid,
Yeah.
solo Barb?
Well, waiting for our bard player to actually do a capstone run solo.
What are the Barbs doing? man? Oh,
He's started them. He just has decided.
He's on vacation.
Yeah,
gee.
he's taking a little break.
Okay. And the Druid, any time there yet?
Yeah. Solo was 4:45.
So like about an hour slower than the Rogue.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I expected, yeah. So
Hour
Druid
slower
an
than
hour
Rogue and
slower. I think the Barb's going to be an hour slower. Maybe it's slightly faster than the Druid. I
But
think.
that's the first capstone, like I said.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
Right.
T3 ready, basically. That's the time.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
And,
what matters. Like, it doesn't matter. I mean, your level obviously matters for the items to wear, so you want to be as high as possible if you can. But all it is, like, in T3, you're gonna fly anyways.
I think Necro will be pretty similar to the Rogue and Sork, but just a little bit slower without the mobility.
If you don't get move speed, then yeah. If you get move speed, then he could probably compete, but you have to get it early. My Necro time right now is 3:55 for tier 3,
Yeah.
which is pretty
It's
close.
Very close to the Rogue. Man.
It is.
What would you do? Like, let's say we summarize it for the viewers for 1 second. Like, S tier is Rogue. Would you put the Necro like in there in S tier with the Rogue, like very similar?
I'd put him in A. He can't.
Okay, so S tier
early
is Rogue.
leveling can't compete. And then killing speed, he can't compete. You melt the curator. You just straight up melt him as the rogue.
Yeah.
Okay.
Even
So
with
Rogue's the best. Then it's Necro.
I think Sork's faster than Necro early,
Sork's
but
even.
if we're talking about pushing to 100, I think Necro outscales the Sork roughly late tier 3.
Okay. That's some good insights.
Yeah. All right. I don't know if you have anything you want to put in there, Lucky, or we just keep talking up your class. I don't know.
Yeah, you guys can talk about Rogue all you want. And everyone's finding out all this stuff about Rogue that I've known for a long time. It's nice.
Yeah, Lucky's been trying to tell us the entire time. Why are you playing? Why are you bothering with other classes?
Why aren't we playing 4 rogues? What's going on, guys?
Yeah. Wait, so we didn't touch on that. Like, I mean, like, what do you guys like think? Like, do you think, like, for the composition, like, would you double some of the classes? Like, for example, the strong classes, like the rogue. Like, do you think that's I mean, it's definitely a possibility, but like, what's your take? Like, do you think that's actually better than having a druid in there or something?
The 229 run where we got basically a half-hour PB on the same content we were getting, the T3 was a double rogue run. The thing about rogue is everyone was talking about, the problem with rogue is that you only have access to 6 skills. When you run 2 rogues, you don't have to have the rogues be the same either. You know, they can maintain the good damage, but one could go with a bunch of CC, you know, or say like Jim, when we were playing, he was on the other rogue and he dropped the Twisting Blades aspect super early. And he was able to just proc into Twisting Blades. I was running Penetrating Shot, blowing up packs. He was taking down the single targets, and they play so different, and you could cater each rogue to do a very specific task that I think doubling up on rogue is good. I joked when I said 4. I think the other classes bring a lot to the group, but I think doubling up on, if you were to pick a class, I like rogue. I think you can do a lot with Necro too, and the area that Necro lacks is speed, but with a group, you kind of can just keep teleporting to everyone, or you end up, you know, being able to keep up more or less on Necro. And I think being in a group covers some of the weaknesses that Necro has when it's playing solo, kind of. So, and they also have a lot of sort of utility skills and tricks up their sleeves. I think that they could really benefit a group comp more than another rogue could necessarily. Like if we're talking about curses or something, which is not something that we've used so far in a run because we've only run 1 Necro. But I think there's a lot that a Necro could bring to a group comp if we ended up maybe trying more than 1. But those are kind of my thoughts.
So there's 2 rogues, 1 Sorg. What's the final class in that run?
Well, if it's Necro.
Necro.
I'm a Necro main. I'm a Necro Andy. I love Necro.
I love him too, man. It's my second class for.
It's so much fun. You have so many interesting ways to play it. Even just playing Bone Spear spec, you know, there's multiple different ways that you can play it. And I mean, splintering is going to get nerfed. I don't think Bone Spear should get nerfed. I think splintering needs to be fixed. Splintering is
so you play that spec like
splintering is broken. Bone Spear is not. That's the thing. The actual aspect needs to get fixed. But yeah, you play it. You're not going to have splintering early as a Necro, but with Grasping Veins, you spec into Supernatural Bone Spear. That way you can actually proc vulnerable on every target all the time. So the rogues can just be worried about dishing out their damage. I mean, they are using their vulnerables as well with their little dagger toss, basic puncture. But at the same time, like you can't beat like just every single core ability is proccing vulnerable on a target.
You may want to clarify early game a little bit there.
I think before 25 is early game. If until 25 you we're basically, in my opinion, we have a route, and then post 25 is leveling. Even though we can get our aspects before then, I think pre 25 you need to level up, get stronger, and there is. I mean, we haven't talked about routing yet, but I think there's a pretty obvious route that that will get you there faster than just spamming one dungeon.
Dang, you guys are advanced already on this. I love it. I love to see the spreadsheets, the routes. Like, man, it's been like.
Well, I posted a speedrun guide if you want to check it out.
Yeah, it was such an honor to see that in D2, like the mega spreadsheet. Like, and in D2, there's like 8 persons that all have a different role. Like, it gets so crazy, and I think we can get that sophisticated and that in depth in D4 as well. And I mean, that time is probably going to cut down. In a couple of years, we're going to run sub 2 hours or something, or a couple of months maybe even. It's going to be insane.
I mean, so the D2 spreadsheet for 8 people has been adjusted multiple times over like 4.5 years, I think. And that's been worked on by more than 8 people because, well, it's hard to get 8 people together at the same time and have enough time to, do a speed run. So yeah, D2 took multiple years. D4, we've been out for a little over a month now, and yeah, this is.
We got a bunch of paint pictures with like drawings over it, like trying to show what we're supposed to be doing. We haven't really come up with like names of like quick names to call out for certain things yet. Others are pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
There's farming routes that different comps can do that others can't. But it's still, one more or less generic route that I think kind of creates a level of efficiency that can't be really replicated outside of that.
Mm-hmm.
At least,
I mean, I think it's just like really what you said earlier. Like you can kind of adapt a lot of these strategies. I mean, it's still a Diablo game, and like it's just the speedrun strategies that you adapt and the way of thinking about it, like how to efficiently do this segment, like how can I min max and stuff, and like all the learning experiences that you have from like speedrunning, especially in D2, like you can adapt so much to that into D4, and I feel like you guys are already on such a route that you are like already like so much more efficient than a lot of other people out there. And it's just crazy to see.
Yeah, so I guess this comes back to the routing, and coming up for the season, the routing for that is going to definitely be different than the routing for speedruns. And you want to min-max getting XP as well as getting the aspects for the classes in your party. And so if you're running, let's say double rogue, then you want to hit up Jalal's Vigil because that's the Twisting Blades aspect the rogues can get. And then if you're running Sork, I'm not sure what dungeon they get.
Lost Archives. They need the Lost Archives.
Well, they do Lost Archives for their specialization, yeah. But that's a general aspect for everybody, which is actually really powerful, getting that barrier. And then
they want the ice shards.
yeah. Dead Man's Dredge.
Glacial, I think it's called. Is that it? I can't remember. I just click on it.
Yeah.
Piercing Cold. That Cougs has us. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there's that one for Sork. You got Ghoul Run Slums for the Necro. You got Belfry something for the Druid. And Halzar. But like these dungeons, they have minimum levels actually because they're in a minimum level zone. So you have to take that into account when you're routing this out. In the Druid's case, Alzar, I think the zone is level 35 or 40 or somewhere in there. And so you can't do that right off the rip. You can't get the Druid his aspect right off the beginning of the run. But you could do like the Sork Dead Man's Dredge right off the rip because that is in Nevesk, I think. Or is that the waypoint? Yeah, down there.
So just to maybe easier follow, like maybe we can walk through step by step. Like you make your fresh character, you ink your overshot. Like what do you do first?
Northwest towards Menestead. There is a event that almost always spawns just northwest of Kyovashad.
This is a side quest event?
No. Well, so you can pick up a side quest on the way. which was
Yeah,
going to
I've
help
seen
your
you guys
renown.
do something like that in the run. So you guys think like side quests is a really like if they're on the way.
You should be incorporating it. When you plan out whatever your team comp is, where you need to go. Try to plan out what side quests you're going to grab and actually do on the way. The easiest one I think that's pretty straightforward is just west of the waypoint. There is a quest. Tithings. It's about, I think it's titled Tithings or something like that. You walk out of Kiowa Shed northwest. There's an event. You do the event. That way you can get like some experience, a chest drop, some obols, and then on the road to Menestead. I mean, it's I think 7-second little pit stop before you back on your horse and going. Well, I guess you have to wait for the horse cooldown, but you know, you lose a couple seconds and then you get 20 renown. So I mean, it's not that huge, but you do get 1 to 2 veiled crystals, and that doesn't sound like a lot early. But if you are unlocking your aspect, and you get like 2 more rare drops, then you can add that aspect to your character that much sooner. So that is part of a strategy to try to get that aspect imprinted as soon as possible. Immediately after you get that Menestead waypoint, because you need that Menestead waypoint for the rest of the route, you're going back there 2 or 3 times.
For what you're talking about, I put a picture in the Discord, Rob, if you want to take a look.
Yeah, if you want.
Although we don't have, I haven't put in the side quest on there, but the side quest goes up into that area between 1 and Menestead.
So this is very early on. So this is like the events, right? 1,
Yeah.
2, 3,
So just if I could, because chat is cracking me up, but they're talking about dungeon spam early. So they're in the very early game. Dungeons are going to scale based on how many players are in your party. So if you're playing with a 4-player party, the dungeons are actually going to be a lot harder to kill than just this open world stuff is. So what we do at the start of the run is we farm these world events because they don't scale. They're not going to be any stronger being in a 4-player party. We can wreck them. They're decent density, and it gets you a good amount of levels. I think by the end of this, what are we level like? Just in open world stuff, we get to
before we get to the first dungeon, we are roughly level 7. By the end of the first dungeon, we are late 9, early 10.
Yep.
So that's just something to think about. If you're playing with a group, dungeons are going to scale, and it's pretty significant scaling when you're in a party, but overworld will not.
You will get to level 10 very, very quickly doing this. Significantly faster than trying to walk through a dungeon.
Yeah, so our level 10 split is about 10 minutes. Roughly.
Yeah, that's insane.
That's without any potential bonus XP that you get to claim, whether or not we find out if something gets adjusted right before, but
because we're starting with those 2 things that we talked about, the 2 renown, so this route might be obsolete. Like we might have to come up with something new.
Well, I already have some plans for that too.
Yeah, we have an idea of what we'll do, but yeah, I guess like having to have multiple routes planned out, this just kind of like, oh, well, great.
Yeah, it depends, I guess.
To adapt, for sure.
That's why you adapt. Yeah. That's what launches are all about. Seasons, you adapt.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just to clarify, like, what's the main objective in 4.5? This is a dungeon. What does it unlock?
Which one are you talking about? Nostrava Deepwood or what?
The
4
or 5.
So the first
is a cellar.
There's a cellar right next to Nostrava Deepwood. You can get either an event directly there, which could potentially be a lot of experience, or if you're just clearing the cellar, then I mean that could potentially be one of those high power resources that is kind of annoying to farm later, like crushed beast bones or pale tongues or something like that. And it's just dungeon cellars are efficient if you can clear them quickly. And it's a high quality one. So it's a small gamble for a quick. It's a quick stop. There's also a couple ambushes on the way in between that last event and the cellar that we've kind of noticed that those ambush spots are
You
good.
get ambushed, it's a good thing.
It's a good density. Yeah, getting ambushed is good in this. More monsters means more experience. So that's kind of what you're looking for. If the ambush doesn't spawn, then you just need to keep moving. You need to get to where the monsters are.
Man, that's really interesting because I remember on launch, man, I did everything I could to skip every cellar I see. Like I never went in there because I was like, man, like this just doesn't.
You don't
feel
want to
like
spam cellars. It's going to take too long. You have to reload it. It's not worth it. But getting one early could potentially be really good because that's potentially one more event that could be a high quality event. If you're sitting, if you walk into a dungeon, a dungeon cellar and it's last stand, we're going to tell you to skip it. Or not last stand. What's
just
that?
To clarify, the cellars also scale 4-player, right? Like a dungeon would. It's an instance.
Cellars, or instance, yeah.
Okay.
No, but there's.
I didn't know. Like that's a big buff. Like you can definitely do if you know which cellars are efficient. Like
Well,
it's very nice.
Yeah, some cellars you have to climb down. I don't suggest ever going into any of those cellars where you actually have to climb. A lot of them are very short entrance ways. There is a chance that you can run into a butcher, though.
Knowledge and experience, like which cellar to choose and which one to skip. And that's great.
Yeah, there's a chance that you run into a butcher, though. So fair warning.
Maybe not the best for hardcore.
Not great. Not great for hardcore. Not great for early in a speed run when you're trying to push either.
He's terrible for XP.
Yeah, not ideal. It takes way too long to kill him.
But I think this is going to be a bit of a surprise for some people. So, like, whenever you see Butcher, like, on your low-level character and you care about speed, like, you run away and you skip him, basically.
Basically, yeah.
Like, even for the loot, it would not be worth it.
It might even be more efficient in certain cases to just let him kill you on softcore. Just to get him off the screen. Just to get him off, Just respawn.
When you have Butcher guys on low level, just suicide.
Yep, suicide.
Good strategy. I can do that.
The butcher could be useful once you get to around 25-30 if you find him in a dungeon or something, because that's when you're more likely to find a legendary off of him, and that could potentially propel you, especially on like class like the druid that really benefits from aspects. But typically it's until that point, like the very early game that we're talking about, isn't useful at all for him. So
right insights.
So something that my chat's bringing up is bouncing between cellars and dungeons and back and forth, and I think something that we need to kind of explain about routing for this game in general is you always want to be under-leveled wherever you're going. So we're already pretty much on level when we're walking into Nostrava Deepwood. We're just slightly under-leveled, and we need to get to a power that we can move on to the next area so we can be under-leveled again.
The first area you go to north of Kyoshot is level 5, by the way. It's not level 1.
Mm-hmm.
To kind of explain the reason why we go north of Kyoshot instead of south or east or southwest.
Right.
So the level 5 area, you're going in there as level 1. They're 4 levels higher than you, which is fine because, like I said, 3 levels is 25% XP bonus. So you get that XP bonus plus they're, for the first 2 levels, which you boom, you get those 2 like almost instantly. And then
you should be level 4. So even if you start at level 1, you should be level 4 by the end of the first event.
Yeah.
So just because that is asking this, guys, just to clarify, you're doing this on World Tier 1 or on World Tier 2?
2.
World Tier 2, chat. Okay.
Yeah,
And,
so that was
and
one
how do
thing
you
that-
feel about this? Like, 'cause this was a big discussion on game launch. Like, are we gonna play on World Tier 1 or are we gonna play on World Tier 2?
I've tried.
What do you guys think?
I've
What's the advantages?
I've tested
what's the
it.
disadvantages?
With 5 skill points, World Tier 2 is worth it. If you're starting with no skill points, and like no items, no anything. If we didn't have the Lilith statue buffs, yeah, World Tier 1. I get it. But because we have the Lilith statue buffs, which you should all collect, make sure you collect every single Lilith statue, and make sure you log into your account with that character, and make sure that you get that first 5 skill points. World Tier 2 is going to be better because you will be able to kill things with every single class.
You have to log in.
And you're
on the
basically
18th.
playing this all the way through. Like, is there ever a point in the run where you switch to World Tier 1, or is it World Tier 2 all the way into World Tier 3 and then 4?
I've tried multiple different hybrid approaches, and every single time World Tier 2 straight across beat it.
All right. Oh, that's really interesting because that was completely different. Like on game launch, I felt like it was like.
Oh yeah, you didn't have any
World Tier 1
Lilith
because
statues. You didn't have any
we
bonus
didn't have the
stats.
statues. We didn't have the skill points. World Tier 1 was the play because we were too weak. I mean, especially on Barb or Druid if you started.
Yeah.
And now with all the skill points and all the extra power we get, all the renown, all the Lilith, we want to be playing World Tier 2 all the way.
Yes.
Good stuff.
And I mean, people talk about like the 5% elixir. Like, why don't you have a 5% elixir going? It's like, why aren't you on World Tier 2 that's 20% more XP? Especially when you're killing it just as fast. So
Well, you can't have the elixir until you're level 5 anyway, and most of the time we don't have the resource. Well, we would not have the resources starting out to make one.
yeah, so on what do you call it? Yeah, on the start you have no resources, no gold, and that's the kind of the hard thing kind of to like think about when you're doing a speed run versus like the season start. Mentally, you have to like you can't do this because you're not going to have these resources. Like I can't shop these items because I'm not going to have the gold. Like we talked about.
I don't really have to worry about that, Jim. I basically don't have resources on Softcore.
Yeah.
So just to like conclude the World Tier 1 versus World Tier 2 discussion, because I already see my chat like having a bunch of questions. So what would you guys think for a solo player? Like obviously for a group play with the renown, okay, like World Tier 2 is the way because you have strong synergy, you have very strong characters in there. But what if you're starting out on a Barb or on a Druid and you still have that renown, like, and I don't know, maybe you're like not the best speedrunner, like you're not a speedrunner, you're just like a normal player. Like, do you think or would you recommend World Tier 1 or World Tier 2 for like, you know, these kind of players?
I would say at most if you notice that your kill speed is slow and you're, struggling a little bit, I would say the first 10 levels at most in World Tier 1, nothing further. Everything World Tier 2.
So the start of the season, or you're going to start with those 5 skill points.
Yeah.
And the altars of Lilith, like we talked about, and even on Druid, when I was starting off, and I thought I was going to need to do World Tier 1, and I realized like as soon as I switched to World Tier 2, I was killing stuff just a little bit slower, but like, I mean, it was hardly noticeable, and the XP was definitely noticeable, even on Druid, who's a weaker start, or probably the weakest start. I think Barb. I mean, like Deathblow is really powerful. Rend Deathblow combo, or something similar. Like there's a little bit of innovation on Barb early game that our Barb players come up with, and
That's cool.
yeah, Barb isn't as lackluster as people think, but
yeah, I mean, you would still agree that it's still like, Druid and Barb are like kind of the harder classes to
for
start
sure.
on solo, and then the other 3 are like quite a bit ahead.
I mean, I think Druid and Barb kind of scale pretty well when they get late game. Having a Druid or Barb on your team is good in general if you're trying to do the 100 push, because they provide a lot of things for you early, but even more so late.
So the Barb has like a pull, kind of like the Necros, but in a direct, the chain grab.
It's a
forget
cone.
the name of it.
So
it's a cone,
grasping
but
chains or something.
Yeah. It's really quick and it casts really quick. So the Corpse Tendrils they are super powerful, but they take a second to actually like
Activate,
go.
yeah.
And so if you're kiting away from the mob and the mob walks out of the range of your corpse tendrils, then those mobs don't get pulled back into that CC. So the barb's more instantaneous with that kind of stuff, and certain mobs like vampires, for example, are really annoying, but they'll just jump away, and the barb can pull them right back in, whereas the necro can't do that as efficiently. So there's stuff like that can be time saves from like the barb's perspective. The druid has poison creeper for locking stuff down, and trample can push back a couple mobs, but that's it's kind of hit or miss because you can push mobs. Like if the necro pulls everything together and you trample through it, you might do damage, but you're gonna spread everything out again. So
It's super annoying when you do that, Jim.
So the general strategy
so
is
fun.
like most people should definitely try to play on World Tier 2, and only if they are really struggling, like it's a more casual player.
Yeah.
Try World Tier 2, and if it doesn't work out, then obviously change to World Tier 1. But overall, you should try to. You should be strong enough to do World Tier 2 comfortably.
If you've collected your little statues and you explored the whole map and you're starting with those 5 skill points, you should at least give it a try. I would suggest giving it a try right now. Like, nothing's stopping you. You could just create a new character real quick. See how it feels.
I mean, maybe if you're in hardcore, you might want to like sometimes go to the World Tier 1 route, but for softcore, like there's nothing to lose, guys. Just try it. It should be more efficient. And only if you're really struggling, then obviously go to World Tier 1.
Yeah, agreed. The other thing about like the Lilith statues and the exploration and whatnot, you need to log in. Like they said, I think the 18th is when that patch comes. So after that patch, you maybe on the 19th, if you're just need to log in for a quick second and you can't really play, just log in on the character that has all that done, and it'll transfer over. Which is kind of
then one thing that even might be another argument for World Tier 2, like we might get the season mechanics. We might have these hearts, and they looked pretty powerful in the preview that they showed. So this is obviously going to give you even more power, and it's going to make World Tier 2 probably even more efficient in comparison to World Tier 1 if you do have some of these new hearts.
Yeah. Did I cut you off, Lucky?
No, I was gonna say that I agreed with a lot of the all the points that we made. You're gonna be stronger. Also, the difference between 1 and 2 is less noticeable at the lower levels, especially when you're going to start out with skills. Even if you don't have all of the renown farmed, you will have some. You'll likely have some skills that you didn't start out with before at level 1. When it gets hard, you drop it down. If you're coming up against a wall, not all classes are going to deal with all the content the same. If you're a solo player, you're encountering a wall, you just drop it down and get through that way.
Yep. All right. Cool deal. Do you want, I guess, the second part of the route, or do you want to look more into the?
That's
I would love
literally
that.
just step 1. Yeah.
That's just step 1. Yeah.
We can link these later in the show notes or in the video or something. Like that's definitely super cool and super interesting for people to see.
Yeah. So the second link here is the it's a little bit longer, obviously, but
This is if you have a rogue in your team.
Yeah, if you have a rogue in your team, you get to that. Yeah. And the red text, or the darker red, I should say, with the T there is the teleport out if you don't have a rogue, and you can go back to Saragar and then run to the dungeon right up there.
Maybe one step back for all the people to understand, and also for me to clarify. So this is the main city waypoint of Act 2, I think it is, right?
Yes.
And you have all these waypoints, guys, unlocked in the season already. If you have
the main city,
one of your characters,
not the side
you
waypoints.
You have the main cities, but you will not have these like side waypoints, basically, right? So you're starting in this main city, and then you guys go on.
Yeah, and so we're picking up. These are events that are circled in orange, and then the 5-sided circle is the dungeon circle, right? When we're going through these areas, you're picking up these waypoints that give you renown, and then the dungeon gives you 30 renown as well. So you're picking up the renown to get to that next skill point, and if you for this area, we're trying to figure out where you include doing a stronghold, because there's 3 different strongholds. There's one right there immediately to the left, the Hunter's Lounge or Lodge. You could hit that up. So after you finish 13, exit dungeon and hop on over, maybe even repeat 12, and then head over to the stronghold right there. Get the renown for like the extra skill point, or you could go to the stronghold that's on the far west side of Skosklen and hit up that Toradora for your druid player. So, yeah. I mean,
Yes.
Yeah, so I mean, personally, I think strongholds in Saragar can be kind of pushed back a little bit until tier 3. But that's just kind of my opinion with how the routing can really go. If you're struggling for skill points early, then yeah, you can push those strongholds.
yeah.
If you're not like struggling with damage because you're low on skill points, then I would try to keep pushing the content until tier 3, and then take them.
Yeah. Yeah, getting the levels faster is more important than getting the skill points. If the skill point isn't helping you push like
And the
much faster.
breakpoint to start with this like second stage, so to say, or second act is like you're around level 9, level 10 on all the classes basically.
Yeah. So we TP out of that the first dungeon, Nostrava Deepwood, and TP straight to Saragar from there. And you hop on your mount and do the little route.
Yep, you run straight to the first event. It's possible that you could go into the dungeon. I've done that on a lot of my early speedrun routes, and I love stockades because you can reset it faster than a lot of other dungeons because you can leave the game immediately as soon as you're out of the dungeon. It's also level 15 minimum, so if you are walking in at level 10 and you can kill at level 10, great. But usually if you're in a group, because they scale, because it's instanced, it could be a significant struggle for a group of level 10 people coming in. So solo, I think Stockades is a pretty good pick. As a group, you should try to do at least 6 and 7 on that map of events. Picking up the waypoints always good for a season. On a speed run, you could probably just go directly to the next event until you think you're strong enough to hit up Stockades. But if you're doing a season reset, I would follow those events, and if you have a rogue, I would follow all the events. If you don't have a rogue, I would agree with Jim. Only I would say get that last waypoint right next to 10, as opposed to TPing out at 10.
Holy shit, yeah, this is already like pretty min-max, man. Like saving the time to TP and all that kind of stuff. I love this stuff. Really cool to see. And yeah, thanks for sharing this. This is amazing. I can't wait.
Well, you can see how
Go ahead.
far out of the way the rogue aspect is. It's way up there. It's super powerful.
This is 13, yes, just to clarify.
Yeah, number
Yeah.
13.
And this is the twisting blades
Yes.
spinny aspect.
Yeah. And the reason
This is
why
the
we
most
don't
important
go
one to pick up
east,
on the
the reason why we don't go east is because east of Saragar is level 20 minimum, and you're just not going to have the kill power at level 10 to really actually clear mobs in that area. So getting the levels from all those events to the west and north is helpful.
Also level 11 to 15 area, so
yeah.
yeah.
So they're
You're
above
level 9,
your
10.
level. It's still efficient.
So just to clarify, because I see a lot of people in my chat asking, like, do you think this road like could work like roughly? Obviously, you need to adapt and make some changes, like for a solo player, or there's a lot of like players.
I've done it on solo,
like in a duo, like with their husband or their wife, you know.
Yep.
Yeah.
I did it solo on Sork. I went up to roughly where Jim has his T. Actually, I think I went up to 9 and then stopped. Or no, it was 10. It was 10.
Yeah, because obviously, like if you are Sorg, there's no need to do the twisting blade
Right.
aspect dungeon.
Yep. I went to roughly 10, TP'd back to town, and went directly into Stockades, and I really just blew the whole thing up. It really felt great. I felt very strong.
Stockades is the yellow 11 right northwest of Sergar.
Mm-hmm. So that's fantastic. So like even as a solo player, obviously with kind of like some adaptations, this would still be a very efficient, if not the most efficient route, right?
I think so.
Yeah, it's very good. Yeah. It'll be funny like seeing people that have seen this, and you're just like all standing in group, like of it's what 12 people that you can have in one area, and you just have like everybody. You're like,
just imagine if this meta like really establishes, and obviously like I encourage everybody to do their own testing and to always think out of the box. Like we're just trying and we're just sharing like what these guys here found and tested. Obviously, there's no guarantee this is the best, guys. Like there's going to be a big patch, and nobody really like 100% knows. This is like these guys did a 2.5 hour run all the way to World Tier 3. So this has already been like very well tested, and you guys probably did like I don't know how many hours did you like spend like all together like doing this? I'm probably hundreds of hours already, right?
I think personally, I've spent well over 100. I would say I probably broke 200 hours just testing random
doing
things.
A big service for the community all here. And, obviously, guys, like do your own testing as well. But this strategy has been proven to work. If it's the best, like we don't know yet. Only time will tell. I'm pretty sure there will be changes, adaptations going forward, season by season. But this is a pretty safe route to follow already.
Also, the people from the community do bring up like good suggestions all the time, and we're like, oh, maybe we could implement that somewhere in here. Why don't we do this? Questions are great. And it's like, well, why don't we do that? Have we not considered this? And so, constructive criticism is great. Yeah,
always appreciate it. Give feedback, guys. See what you think. Ask your questions, and we'll do the best to answer.
Yeah, and if you do this route and try it out, and it feels good, let us know like that too. That'll be great. Like
not only criticism, also like, well, this worked great. Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Great.
So, there is like more pieces to the puzzle, but it gets a little bit split here, I feel like, because at this point or after these areas you're about level 15 roughly, and so it's like maybe you do your class specialization, and so there's like splits for that. Like the Sork one we've talked about being really powerful for Fireball for everybody. The Rogue one is in Ministad, which we got that waypoint earlier in the route.
It's also going to depend on if the quality of the events that you hit, because if you get like really good events, like the Jar of Souls is a really good event as long as you don't pick up the souls.
Because you just keep spamming mobs.
Yeah, it just spams mobs. You kill mobs fast, it spams more mobs. Same with the blood pillars. I don't remember the name of it, but don't close the last pillar until that 15-second mark hits. Then you can spam all the monsters, kill them all in that last pillar. It's 15 seconds out is when you want to do it, just to be safe.
So there are always these little like nuances and tricks, obviously, that you figure out or that come with experiencing and doing this a couple times. So if you guys want to, have a fast time, and if you play with a team, it's just important to like practice this maybe once or twice, like play through it, and just try out and see if it works for you, and give feedback if you have any questions. That's super cool.
Yeah, and so yeah, the next part of this, I don't know, I haven't really had. I mean, I've done theory of like areas, but it's gonna change. I feel like based on where you're at with your group, what party you're running, what comp you're running. And so I guess.
So you're basically saying on level 15 it gets like a bit more open, like
Yeah.
or there's like various different like strategies that could work. And you
Yeah,
will have
there's
to see.
at that point there, because you want to go from like 15 to like 17. Sorry, those two levels are kind of like a little hard to. I don't know.
You have a couple spots. You have a couple options from 15
Yeah.
to 17. East of Saragar is fine because it is level 20.
Yeah, sure, level 20. Yeah.
And then there's also an event to the east of Kedbardu, which I think Jim can show us as well. I think you might have a picture of it. But you kind of want to be around level 17 before you start. Yep, there it is. Before you start doing the Stronghold strat.
So just to clarify between these two, like where like you end level 15-ish here, and then how do you get to 17? Or is that like
so to getting to 17, you have a couple options. It's if you have the Sork and or Rogue in your party, you can just follow them to do their class quest. If you
That'll
have
get you, yeah.
if you have both,
wow.
yeah.
Yeah, I guess it's a dungeon, right? And
Both of them have dungeons.
Yeah.
Yep, both of them have dungeons. Sork's is she has a cellar after the dungeon. There is usually an event right next to, in between the cellar and the Sork's specific cellar and Lost Archive, that the group can do while the Sork is clicking through text. And there's also another cellar just north of that area as well that the group can do while the Sork does her cellar. And then they can start moving to the next area. When the Sork is done with her quest, gets her specialization, she can TP back to town and then use her portals to TP to you guys as you've moved on to the next area. Just to, try to always be efficient and always moving to the next spot.
Yep. And so I guess the only class specialization that I wouldn't do right away would be Druids. Barb can do his. His is an open world.
Necros is very late. It's 25.
Oh yeah, Necro
and it's also kind of not great for experience, but it is a huge damage boost because the Iron Golem sacrifice is just too good. So
30% crit damage.
yeah. It's really, really good.
So yeah, the Druid, the Spirit Boons, like you start collecting Druidic Spirit offerings at level 15. You don't get to collect them before that. So if you do your dungeon or the Stronghold and the quest line, which is terrible for XP, and it takes the longest out of all the classes, you're not going to get much benefit out of it either. And then you have to go back there again to unlock each spirit. So it's just not worth going and doing until you have like 300-400 Druidic Spirit offerings, which is around 30-35. So
just to summarize, to get level 15 to 17, like you could basically feel free to on the other classes, like you follow the rogue or you follow the sorcerer, or do you move as one unit? Like let's say all 4 players do the sorcerer quest and then all 4 players do the rogue quest, or do like 2 players do the sword quest and 2 players do the rogue quest? Or what would you think is
we split it.
a good strategy?
We when we had
2 and 2 split. Actually, that's what we did as well on launch. Pretty funny.
Yeah.
Yep.
So the 2 rogues go together and the sword goes together with the 4th player, basically.
Yeah, we unpartied. I don't know how good the 4-player XP. We haven't. This is something to test as well as 4-player XP in a dungeon versus players 1 XP, and what the difference in that is, if there is a difference, and then also split that up amongst 2 people in the party because you get the party bonus XP. There's still testing to do as far as the.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of testing to do, and this has already been so helpful for so many people, guys. Holy shit, it's amazing.
Yeah, and
well, this is the exciting part of the run. This is my favorite. We finally reached my baby.
Many different options that are close, man. There's just man, okay, there's so much more. I can min max this, I can min max that. We can even save some more time if we figure out what's really the best and stuff. So this is very much a work in progress, and I guess it's going to be work in progress for quite a few months here. But this is already so good, man.
So right here is where the Carrion Fields versus straight into Strongholds, I guess debate is. If you still believe in dungeons at this moment, go ahead. You can go down to Carrion Fields. It's level 25. You're going to be pretty low level going into it, but it's a lot of the mobs are easy to clear. There are 2 pretty tanky bosses, but you don't need to kill the actual boss for the dungeon for the experience. You just want to clear as many mobs as you can.
The aspect is terrible.
Yeah, I think that Carrion Fields drops more elixirs than any other dungeon I've done. It's a bit of a conspiracy of mine, but I don't know how valid it is. But it's been shown that Onyx Watchtower is just super strong for leveling from that 17, 18 mark up to 22.
So just to clarify, this Carrion Fields is this the dungeon or is this a stronghold?
That is a dungeon. It is not on the map that Jim sent.
Not on the map.
No.
Correct.
I don't think it's as efficient for group play. For solo play, if you're a strong class like a Sork, Necro, or Rogue, I think you can go to Carrion Fields and farm it a little bit. You'll get some pretty quick levels. But Onyx Watchtower is where you're going to end up anyway. So
and that's the 13 here?
That is 13, Onyx Watchtower, yep.
Okay, this is the Watchtower here. Okay, so for solo you might want to pivot a bit away from this one, but for group
even solo, if you're a weaker class, I don't want to say weaker, but just like your kill speed isn't as fast.
If you're a Bob or
Druid, yeah, if your kill speed isn't as fast, then I would say just go straight into Onyx Watchtower.
Yeah, I think that would apply probably to most of the players here, or a lot of them at least. Like not everybody is a speedrunner and stuff, so it's definitely going to be like the more safe, consistent route. Let's say to go here instead of.
I would say so. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, that's good to know.
Yeah,
and
so
12 is a side event here.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a side event. It's just
so you just check this on the way. If it's there, you do it. If it's not there, you keep going.
If it's a good event, you can do it.
If it's a good event, yeah.
Yeah. If you're in a group and people are shopping, they need to do a lot of shopping. If there's a lot of downtime, then just run there because they're going to be sitting looking at the shopping screen for too long. But if they're ready to move on to the next thing, just at least one person runs out there and everyone TPs to them, goes to the event, and then everyone can do their shopping afterwards. So if you could just like push it a little bit, then getting that little bit of extra XP in a level 20 area will really set you up for going to Onyx right after, which is a level 20 minimum stronghold.
And strongholds are always +2 of your level, so you're getting 20%
It's like
XP.
outside, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So if you're going level 17, it will be level 20. But when you're level 20, it's going to be level 22. So it doesn't, that XP bonus does not slow down. You'll always be getting a nice little 20% XP bonus.
Whereas dungeon grinding repetitiveness will eventually, you will catch up to the level of the area that the dungeon's in. So.
But so in this strategy that you're doing, like, do you repeat step 13 like a bunch of times? Or,
yes. This is what you grind.
Like 17, so you grind this dungeon until 22, basically, is right now what you're planning. Okay. Yep. Go here, grind this dungeon, and you reset in group, obviously, by just leaving the party.
Yep, leave party, join. Again.
And if you're a solo player, obviously you can't do that, and you will have to escape the game and join back in, I guess, after every dungeon. And here's
what I think is the most efficient way to farm Onyx Watchtower. You split into two teams.
This is going to be super helpful. So this is within the 13, right? Like this is this.
Yep.
Tower. Oh yeah, I've been here. I remember this.
Yep.
Okay, so what are we seeing here?
Every time you reset the dungeon, this isn't the first time you clear. The first time you clear, you're kind of walk around as a team of 4 to clear it, just because you're walking in the top right, because that's just the path. That's the fastest path to the dungeon. When you reset, you start in the bottom left of the screen. Team 1 is red. Team A is blue.
It's a 2-2 split, basically.
Yep, 2-2 split. So I would not put 2 rogues together if you're running 2 rogues.
Makes sense.
I wouldn't put 2 druids together if you're running 2 druids. You know, you want to try to match up 2 classes that will fit together well. And you want the blue team to clear the bosses around the outside. There's groups that spawn in each of those blue circles, and you want them to hit that barricade and clear the ambush as they clear that last boss mob at the top of their route before hitting all of the cages and letting all the animals out of the cages, because each of those is an elite.
You want to click all of them basically because they spawn more monsters.
Yeah. So that last spot in the dead center is there's 3 caged monsters plus 1 elite boss, kind of tanky. You want to open all the cages to let the monsters out, and then start basically fighting 4 elites at once. It can be pretty rippy. It can be pretty rippy.
This is where it's not hardcore.
Yeah, if you're not
hardcore
if you're
friendly,
if you're
guys. Like,
hardcore,
you're leveled here and you're blasting through, like it's a 4-player like scaling, right? And you're only 2 players in each group, so it's gonna be difficult from the start because monsters will basically have double the HP than your damage output.
yeah. But the reason why you want
them
to
all up.
the reason why you want to take down the barricade is, as you can see, red team, they're clearing a couple smaller areas and 1 boss monster, or you can see that yellow circle. They will likely have the assassin and a boss monster, and that can take a little bit of time. And as soon as they're done, you want the red team to be able to come in like the Riders of Rohan to basically help clean up that big four elite pack in the dead center.
Works out pretty well time-wise, too.
So first in the center, and then both teams at the end go to the right to the boss?
Yep, because you don't know who's going to get the key. It's usually going to be the red team, but sometimes it is the blue.
Is it not on pickup? Is it just like
it is on pick? There's a key that drops from one of the elite bosses prior to... there's 3 elite bosses that you can kill that can drop it. One is the Lookout, which is the red team circle in the top of this map. The other is the Cage Master guy, who's in the dead center, and the other is the Assassin, who can spawn in either the top or the bottom. And all 3 of them can drop the key. So whoever picks up the key needs to run there, open that gate. You can kill the last boss monster. There is a resplendent chest that can drop some nice yellows for you inside that storeroom. And yeah, it's just that's the route. After you're,
I really love how detailed this already is. Holy shit, it's amazing.
Well, yeah, you're spending a bunch of time in this area, right? From 17 to 22, so that many levels needs to be min-maxed.
It's like what are we talking? Like 17 to 22? Like how much, like in real time, would this be? Like when you guys are doing this, how long does it take you to get from 7? Like how long are you doing this grind?
I go to the splits, I guess. I don't know.
From
ballpark.
I want to say roughly 15 minutes.
Yeah, let's say 15, 20 minutes.
And this is like about what, like 5 runs, 6 runs, something like that? How fast are these?
It depends. It'll vary. I would say at least 5.
Okay.
At least 5. Yeah.
Runs of this.
Yep.
And what happens? Like you kill the final boss, and then like you just like
you do not kill the final boss.
Yeah, don't. You want to
the
keep
one on the right side here in the screenshot. It's not the final boss, right?
Right, that is not the final boss. That guy is just.
Just to clarify, where does the final boss spawn so people know what not
top middle to the right.
Yeah.
Okay,
so you see,
like all the way here.
You see where the barricade line is with the blue, and to the right of that, there's that boss group. There's a well right there that you can refill your health pots if you need them. That little short path right next to the very top blue circle, that is the route to the boss. It will not open until you kill the storeroom guy, the quartermaster.
Okay, so like everybody kills the guy on the right side. That one is marked as a skull here. You kill him and then you reset.
Yep.
Okay.
Until about 22 and a half.
Yeah, and
Mhm.
make
And
sure you hit the
like
chest.
at the
in
end,
there,
do you
too,
finish
some
it
good
in
loot.
the last run?
Yeah, you finish it on the last run.
And then you kill the boss. Okay, when you're 22 and you're in the middle of the run, you ding 22, then you finish it.
Yep.
Because it
That's
gives
like
you, I guess,
half
you
a
know,
level of
Yeah,
experience.
you get
too,
like
just
half a
completing
level.
The,
Yep.
the stronghold.
Man, okay, that's really
Huge
smart. That's
experience.
hmm
All right.
You reset the stronghold by leaving party. One person leaves party, they'll get a new instance, and then everybody joins that party. That was a chat question. Sorry. Just
Perfect.
addressing
And
it.
for the solo players, they would kill that guy on the storage room guy on the right side, and then they would just like basically leave game and
Leave
then
game.
go there, and
Yep.
then go there again.
And
until
you,
they
it's
are
the
22, and then
same.
you finish.
It's the same way that you would clear it solo. You would start in the same spot. You would follow the blue route. You would hit the barricade and go to the last spot for the red. On your way to the last spot of the red, you would drag up that second to last red circle, and then you would move down to the cages and then clear the storeroom.
Man, that's fantastic. Yeah, you just combine the two routes, and there you go.
Yep.
All right, and then we're 22. What's next? What do you guys? What do you guys have?
So, I was thinking at this point in the podcast that we would leave a little teaser for next week, and we can start
Can do.
covering the final portion of the run into the capstone, and then potentially start discussing some like options for post capstone as well, into getting to the next World Tier 4. Yeah, I think that's gonna be it for the first podcast of
Yeah, I think that
Speedrunning.
was great. That sounds good.
We'll
man.
get
Yeah,
our videos up of the latest run. It was recent, so it was just the other day. So we'll get those up if people want to watch, the run in the meantime, and then can discuss more.
Yeah, I think I got mine uploaded. Just needed a thumbnail.
Yeah, I need to get a thumbnail too.
Yeah, okay, that's amazing. Well, you guys have those links? Just like send them to me or somewhere. Like I'll link them everywhere where this is going.
Thanks, man.
And yeah, thanks for all this hard work, man. You're doing a great service for the community, and I think this is going to be something, or like basically the most popular topic in the next like 10 days or something, like leading up to the season, because everybody wants to know, like, how do I level efficiently? Like, which route am I going to do? Like, how can I play with my friends, and what to do? And yeah, how to get there as fast as you can, and enjoy the game with your friends.
It's I mean, if you watch it, the video of our run, we're having a blast the whole time.
Yeah, it's super fun.
It's really great.
Yeah, I always love the vibes, man. Like in the two speedruns as well, like just such a positive attitude in general, and especially if you're coming in as like a new person that doesn't know so much, you're still like welcome with open arms, and people teach you how to do it, and that's fantastic, man. Good vibes, and GG.
Yeah, GG guys.
GG's.
I'll see y'all next week.
Yep. All right. This was amazing. Take care, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Talk to you later, guys. Bye.
Bye.